You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back once again. It is Monday. It is time to talk some crypto. It is time for the Crypto Rundown. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Reminding you, if you're not subscribed to the full network, especially for all you crypto heads, maybe you're just coming in for the crypto. Hey, we love you. Make sure you're checking out the full network. A lot of great stuff coming at you. Nearly a dozen, over a dozen other shows hitting the network throughout the week. And then, of course, if you're ready to go above and beyond, you have questions. Who doesn't have questions in these markets? You want to tackle some awesome pro Q&As, as well as, of course, options oddities, live streams, giveaways. Congrats to Chi-Town Indy, the winner of our October Pro Trading Crate. Get your name in the hat for the November crate, and, of course, some legit exclusives nobody else on the planet's going to get but you. The optionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we learn who's joining us on the old Crypto Rundown for this week, I'm pleased to welcome back on our old pal, Mr. Bill from Cenacle Capital Management. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the Crypto Rundown, sir.
Hi, thank you so much, Mark, for having me, and I apologize for my skidding in right behind the 2 o'clock deadline.
You made it in before the music was done, so that's all that matters. How are things in Ulivieri/Cenacle land?
Things are going, I'm living my best life, Mark. I mean, in terms of, relationships, connections, work, health, diet, nutrition, wellness. Things with work, have been a little bit challenging with the decline in some of these high-tech growth names like APP and Facebook, Meta, things like that. So we are fond and staunch believers of make the trade, manage the risk. Actually, we just started a TikTok channel for that. Oh, if you can believe it. This old OG gray-haired TikToker.
Mr. Bill tearing up TikTok. I love it. I'm going to have to stay tuned.
Oh, my gosh, I know.
Stay tuned for that one, listeners, as we stay tuned for a little bit of the old Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show we break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. Yep, we're talking about the big dog, good old BTC. Before we get there, I had this question. Our chat is echoing my thoughts, Mr. Bill, as well. They want to know the important stuff. You're on TikTok. Does that mean, are you doing the dances, sir?
No, it was my first attempt at this type of social media platform. No, I am not doing the dance. I'm just being me.
I think you should coin, pun intended, a nice Bitcoin related dance, and then all the kids would be into it. You'd be huge.
You know, I'm stretching the limit right now. What my family thinks it's even reasonable for an investment advisor. I mean, they tell me how to dress and how to speak and what I should wear to church. And I'm like, I'm not doing it anymore. I just got to be me.
Oh, our chat has a good suggestion. The name of this segment, the Bitcoin Breakdown. I would be willing to license it to you for a reasonable fee. You could turn it into a dance on TikTok, Mr. Bill. What do you think?
One Bitcoin per month. Okay.
The Bitcoin. Yeah, I'll take that, 1 Bitcoin a month. That sounds like a good deal to me. So there we go. You heard it here first, listeners. It's a verbal arrangement here on the show. 1 Bitcoin per month licensing arrangement for the title of the Bitcoin Breakdown. All right. As our lawyers draw it off screen, coming into showtime, we're seeing Bitcoin regaining some of its lost luster. I say some because it hasn't regained all. On our show last week, we were a little bit north of 107,000, 107,318 to be precise. Coming into the start of the show today, we were a little bit north of 105,000, 105,428. So that puts us down about 1,800 handles. I will say we ran that a little bit before showtime. Seems like Bitcoin has rallied another roughly 400 handles since that. So closing in on 106,000 puts us down a little under 1,400 handles on the week. So maybe the upswing is back in action. Mr. Bill, we haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks. What are your thoughts on this action in Bitcoin, and what were you thinking when, clutch your pearls, sir, Bitcoin broke 100K in the wrong direction? The sky was falling.
It was. I wanted to dry heave into a garbage can. I was just so miserable with this action. I mean, Mark, you and I have been predicting, 250 Bitcoin, 350 Bitcoin, 1 million Bitcoin. And
I was at least 1 million. I was 1 million. I'm buying the part 1 million calls as we speak.
1.6. And so when you see this kind of negative reaction, I am like, what is going on? When things don't act and go in the direction that you expect them to, you have to admit that you're wrong or you're too early or whatever. And this is part of managing risk. And it's, you and I have been beating the drum on Bitcoin for a long time. So to see this kind of price action was incredibly disappointing.
I have to admit, I know you've been selling a lot of puts out there. I wasn't sure what kind of Mr. Bill we were going to get today. Was the hair going to be on fire, everything going crazy? But we're rallying back in Bitcoin. We'll get to some of the other assets in a little bit to see how they're going out there. There also is that concern, Mr. Bill. We've been talking for a while, you and I, about these Bitcoin treasuries. It seems like there's a new one every day. Just on the show last week, we had a different crypto asset treasury. So they're popping up in just about every asset under the sun that is in the crypto space these days. I think since we started talking, you and I have launched a crypto treasury, Mr. Bill.
The Shiba Inu.
Yes, the Shiba Inu. Financed by the proceeds from our TikTok dances. But I digress, sir. So there was a little bit of concern there. Maybe 100K is the inflection point. We hear, rumors about some of these newer Bitcoin treasuries being leveraged 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 5 to 1, 10 to 1. At some point that has to break. People were wondering if 100K was the inflection point. We hit that, and then bam, here come the margin calls, and then we race to the downside. Were there any fears along those lines from your perspective, sir?
No, not really. I would say that, so we sold downside puts in Circle, BMNR, MicroStrategies, IBIT, right? So that's the basic strategy. And we were assigned in most of those. But then coming in today, we had a really good rally in the same names. And if you take the strike price of what we sold, the strike price of the options, and you subtract the price of the option premium that we received, we're actually selling, now we're selling the equipment, we're selling calls now, and I think we're going to be just fine. I thought that coming in on Friday, I was sick. Like I said, I wanted to dry heave into the garbage can. But Monday morning, when we had a big rally, had great rallies in Circle and in IBIT. So we started selling call option premium in there, and it's worked out really well. So the option strikes that we're selling are below our basis, and we're getting between $3 and $6 for the options, if you know what I'm saying. So the rally put us over our break-even point, and now we're selling like at the money and slightly in the money, because I do believe that I like the rally. It was washed out, but I'm not so sure how sustainable it is just at this moment.
Yeah, the wheel is your friend in markets like this, listeners. Take both legs. Get paid to get in, get paid to get out. Well, let's see how much you're getting paid. Let's go out to the realm of Bitcoin, vol, and skew, shall we? Remember, if you want to crunch these numbers for yourselves, only place to go, amberdata.io or pro.amberdata.io. Either of those will get you to all this data we're talking about and a whole bunch more. We really do just scratch the surface here on the show, listeners. And vol-wise, we've been saying for a while, Bitcoin vol is kind of anemic, but also something to bear in mind. It can hang out at these levels for a while. That's kind of what it's doing. It popped to about a 43.1 on the weekly vol last week, back to 41.5 this week. So the vol has been kind of vacillating in this anemic range for a little while. Going out to the 30-day vol front, 43.1 on our last show, 42, so coming in a little over a point out there as well. And where the hodlers hang out, 46.5 on the 180-day vol, 46.2 this week, so pretty much unched on that front. And last week, it was kind of, a lot of people's hair was on fire last week, Mr. Bill. All of our skews were looking pretty negative. It was negative 5.25 on the weekly skew. That is back to negative 2.75. Again, the weekly skew is going to whip around even as we're talking here on the show. So that's very much a moving target. The monthly skew was looking pretty bearish last week as well, negative 4.25. Back up, in air quotes, to a negative 3. So still bearish right now. It means there's still a premium to the puts out there, but it has mitigated somewhat from what we saw last week. Again, I think that 100K level is really an inflection point. When we break through that, look out below in terms of skew. And when we're rallying back above it, seeing some of that bearish concern mitigate a little bit. Going out to the 6-month skew, negative 2.25. That's the most pronounced we've seen it in Bitcoin. On the longer term side, certainly in quite some time, back up to negative 1.5. So still bearish, still puts leading the dance across the board, which is also kind of interesting. You know, Bill, this is something you and I have chatted about. It's been kind of an interesting talking point on the show for a while. Since we launched this show, certainly since the listed futures appeared here in the US and then the options therein shortly thereafter, there's been a bias to the upside. There's been a bid to the upside, a bid to the calls, skew-wise in Bitcoin since pretty much time immemorial, because that's where the hodlers hang out. And over the last few months is really the first time we've seen that pretty much go away. And now it's kind of gone across the board. The puts are leading the dance. It might be slightly, but again, any bid is kind of a change of pace for Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on, at least for the last few months, and looks like going forward, the puts leading the dance in Bitcoin, sir?
Yeah, I agree, Mark. I mean, maybe it's just because the emotional disposition of the Bitcoin community, which was always, like you said, that upside skew was very steep, and we thought that, you know, Bitcoin was going to really take off to the upside, that's where the fear was. And I tell you, now we see, again, as Bitcoin has evolved, it's become an institutional product, maybe, just maybe, we have to treat it like a traditional asset class, where that downside skew is something we have to be careful for, especially in the world of 2 times and 3 times and 5 times leveraged ETFs in the cryptocurrency world, which is, again, crazy to me, but it is interesting. I mean, maybe what this is saying is that Bitcoin is becoming a little bit more of a traditional asset, and we're becoming comfortable with it in a way. But the truth is, Mark, I'm not 100% sure. But it is interesting that upside pop has begun to disappear.
Well, speaking of pops, a little bit of a pop to the downside in all things IBIT out here. Interesting to watch kind of how this product has just slowly taken up all of the oxygen in the room when it comes to Bitcoin options out there. I mean, it used to be Deribit. We still quote a lot of Deribit numbers here on the show, but you're talking pretty much IBIT becoming the big dog out there, putting up nearly 1 million contracts a day, 937,000 contracts a day is the ADV coming into the start of the show today. That's down 17,000, so down slightly, but still, you're talking VIX and IBIT are kind of neck and neck from an ADV perspective, which again is kind of wild. 60 and about a third as we're kicking off the show here, down a little over 5, about 5.15 handles from where it was this time last week. So seeing IBIT give up a little bit of the ghost out there on the week, again, rebounding off the lows though, which has been kind of interesting. And in terms of action, let's see, putting up about 652,000 contracts out there in IBIT today. So looking kind of light. I mean, still a lot of paper, but compared to what we've seen out there in the past, it's a little bit light. What's the hot option in IBIT today? Looks like it's the D65s going up 34,000 times. Average price for these, about $1.87. So interesting. Now, there is OI on this strike, worth noting. So somebody could be bailing. They could be deciding, you know what, I'm getting the heck out of Dodge while there's still nearly $2 left in these calls, or maybe they're overwriting and taking a nice little covered call. You know, I don't think they'd be too mad if they sold the 65 strike. We rallied there by D's expiration, and they got another pretty much $2 on top of that. Not the worst trade in the world out there. Number two, we got the 66 puts in November, 23,000 of those changing hands. Now, those are obviously pretty meaty listeners. $6.38. That is opening paper. So worth noting. Looks like we might have a bit of a roll. The Nove expiring on the 14th, 66 puts, to the Nove expiring on the 21st. So next week, 66 puts, doing that roll 23,000 times for a dime, only a dime. That's kind of interesting. 638 versus 628. Opening on the 66 puts for next week. So interesting stuff, keeping the downside party alive. Mr. Bill, what are your thoughts? You said you've been selling some puts in IBIT. What are your thoughts on these actions, these moves you've been seeing out here of late? And what else have you been up to out here in IBIT land, sir?
Well, last on Halloween, we sold the November 7th 60 put, and we collected about $2.89 for that. So if you take the strike price minus what we received for the premium, that's 57.10 or 57.11 is our basis, our cost price. We came in this morning and IBIT was up, trading around $60 a share, and so we sold the No 14 once the No 14th 60 call for about $1.12. So that added another $1.12 to our basis. So in 2 weeks, if all goes well, we'll be making about 6.8% on that $6,000 position, although we have it across 30 or 40 different accounts. In 2 weeks, I mean, it's better than getting paid 4% a year in money market fund in an asset class that you and I both believe in. So the juice is in the crypto stuff. The Circle, which is stable coins, and MicroStrategies, which is Bitcoin, BMNR, which is primarily Ethereum. So we're doing some old school covered calls and cash secured puts. But we're also getting paid some juice on the back end and a small position in these highly volatile ones. So I like IBIT. I'm not going to do any 2x or 3x, but we're getting premium, and we're getting paid $400, $500, $600 a day, and you add that across multiple accounts, and it looks pretty good.
Speaking of names that have been paying pretty well of late in terms of premium, Mara, another one that's been interesting. This is one I was doing a lot of wheeling in over the last few months. I kind of took a hiatus over the last couple of weeks when it shot up to 19 to 20 bucks, somewhere in that range. Got a little bit more volatile, kind of outside of my wheel range where I liked it. Started coming back to earth. I did end up selling 17 puts on it, I think it was last week. Got a pretty decent premium for those. Obviously, stock 15.75, down about 2.25 right now. So I do have some stock. I've been looking for wheel opportunities. I was doing shows earlier today. I think Mara got up to about 16.5 earlier today. So there were some covered call opportunities. This is what happens, Bill. This is the price I pay for doing the show for the listeners. I miss my good covered call opportunities, but I'm not going to be that guy hit and sell in the middle of the show out here. But this is another one you've had a good time if you've been wheeling in and wheeling out of Mara. Putting up nearly 200,000 contracts today, 182,000. ADD is 404,000. That's down about 24,000. Still a pretty active name, but coming off the highs a little bit. The size print out there in Mara today, nearly 10,000 of the 16 calls going up for 59 cents. We also have about 6,500 of the 17 calls, all expiring this week, not the regular monthlies. Those are going up for about 30 cents. So maybe some folks betting on a little bit of a rebound out here, or it could be there is OI on both of these strikes. Could be some folks coming to close out here as well. Bill, I know you and I in the past were slinging a little bit of Mara. I've been pretty active in it. Are you still doing the old put dance and wheel dance in Mara, sir?
No, I'm not. I mean, I get Mara, but it's not Bitcoin, and so even the ET was the symbol ETHA. I think it was ETNA was the Ethereum ETF. I've been doing that one a little bit. But, I'm looking at I love point and figure charts. And if you look at a chart of Mara going back to 2015, it was trading $22 a share. Today, it's $14 a share, $15 a share. Like, Mara is good if it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, this has been a sideways trader for almost 10 years, if you can believe that.
That's why I like it. That's why it's always been one of my wheel candidates, because it has a nice, pretty reliable range.
Well, that's a great point, Mark, and maybe I should look at it a little bit more with a little greater scrutiny, because you can do the November 14th 15.5 covered call or the cash secured put and make 3.3% in the next 5 days. Again, that beats money market, and it's a sideways. It's a doesn't go anywhere. So that's a pretty good rate of return. You know, you buy the stock or sell the 16 call for 45 cents, and you're going to collect 5.1% static rate of return. So that's how I look at things. Again, I'm a little bit of I don't want to say addicted to volatility, but I do like the juicy premiums on a small portion of what we're doing for clients.
Addicted to volatility. I like it. You're addicted to volatility and TikTok dances, Mr. Bill, as we keep on rolling into a little bit of the old altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody, let's get out to the altcoin universe. Let's see what else is lighting up the tape outside of the big dog, which is Bitcoin. By the way, last show we were at about exactly 20 billion to break into the top 10 in terms of market cap. That got you to our old pal Cardano. Coming in and start the show this week, a little bit north of that, almost 21 billion, about 20.9 billion to break into the top 10. Once again, gets you to our old pal Cardano. So still clinging with a death grip to that number 10 spot. Number 9, it's Doge, 27.1 billion. Number 8, it's Tron, 27.8. Whatever bump it got off of, or maybe lack of bump off of that Tron movie, seems to have gone away. 27.8. I'm joking. Or am I, listeners out there? Number 8, Tron, 27.8 billion. Number 7, USD coin, 75.8 billion. Number 6, it's our old pal Solana, listeners. Solana coming in 92.2 billion. Number 5, it's BNB, 135.3 billion. Number 4, Bill's, or I should say Bill's wife's favorite, XRP, 152.6 billion. Number 3, it's Tether, 183.4 billion. Number 2, it's ETH, 425.6 billion. And the big dog, BTC, 2.1 trillion worth of market cap. Let's get out to number 2 on the market cap list. Number 1 in a lot of your hearts. I know earlier this year it was not. It was probably number 57. A lot of you were really mad at this asset. But then, of course, it roared back to life. Given some of that back now, it obviously did get lower out there in ETH land. ETH on our last show, 36.30. It was at about a 35.30 when we kicked off the show, or pretty close to it. That puts it down about exactly 100 handles on the week. Looks like it's hanging out at about 35.75 or so right now. So rallying a little bit, cutting those losses a little bit more. Obviously, it was north of 4,500 not too long ago. A lot of our ETH fans would like to see it back at that level. Mr. Bill, what is catching your eye in the world of ETH these days?
What's catching my eye once again, Mark, is how Ethereum could be trading $4,000 a token in 2021, and at the same time be less than that here in 2025. I find it absolutely amazing, and I question this all the time. You know, does mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency means it becomes just another asset? It's just another ETF. It's just another stock. And it actually, I love point and figure charting, but it also broke, some support in the 4,000 area, Ethereum. The bottom end of the 10-week moving average could move it to 2,700, 2,800. So, why aren't these things going up, Mark? Limited supply, fixed supply, staking, burning, minting, disappearing. The supply is dwindling, but we just can't seem to break out. What's going on? Inquiring minds want to know.
Well, we had a nice run up to 45. What was it? 4,700 was the high, somewhere along those lines. So can't be mad at that. And it came really quick. Now, of course, the other side is coming really quick as well. So I'm sure a lot of our ETH heads won't be happy to hear that, 2,700, 2,800 support level you just threw out there, Mr. Bill. But yeah, ETH has been a wild one to watch last year and indeed this year. And doesn't sound like the ETH roller coaster is over yet out here. Let's break down some of the vol and skew, see if we can find any answers out here, listeners. Weekly vol hanging out at about a 70 on our last show, 71 this week, so kind of treading water there. 30-day vol, so the more standardized monthly vol metric, 67.6 on our show last week, 70.5 this week, so gaining about 3 points there. So getting a little bit juicier out there, and obviously a lot more volatile than we're seeing out in Bitcoin right now. And then going out to the 6-month vol, 68.25 on our last show, 70.25, so gaining 2 points there. Things were looking pretty biased to the downside last week, I think for obvious reasons. It was at a -7 on our weekly skew rating. Not that much better this week, -5 still, so things still looking kind of bearish on the skew front. 30-day skew was a -4 on our last show, -3.5, so kind of treading water there this week as well. Things obviously still looking a little bit concerned to the downside. Maybe they're seeing those same support numbers that Bill is talking about, and they're loading up on some puts. 180-day skew, though, one of the few bright spots for the ETH holders out there. We're just saying the premium is gone in the Bitcoin skew. Is that the case in ETH? The answer is no, and not much of one, but it's still there. +1.5. We'll take where we can get, and that is the same this week, +1.5. So, Bill, I guess if you want a ray of sunshine in ETH, it's that the longer-term options holders haven't given up. There is still a bid to the upside, if ever so slight, sir.
Well, that's great to know. Again, I'm looking at a long-term chart of Ethereum, and even I know long-term chart of the iShares Ethereum Trust symbol ETHA. And boy, this thing has been all over the board, but it did trade from around $36.50 a share down to its bullish trend line going back into 2025. You know, the tariff low, I guess you could say. And then, so we traded up at 36.5. We pulled back down to about 24. We bounced all the bullish trend line. Now we have a little bit of resistance. If you just take a line and draw it at the tops of these upper left, lower right chart, we're going to have some resistance in the 29 to 29.5 area. So maybe that's what we just need to do, is take some old school, old-fashioned trend lines, draw them, put them in, and we sell cash secured puts on the downside of the range, and we sell some at-the-money calls as we approach the higher end of the range and hope we get taken out. But I don't think any of this is, that's just the trading strategy. The middle of the 10-week moving average for Ethereum is still 31.5. I mean, it's a long way to go. I'm not sure we're going to get there, but we could. But in the meantime, we just have to, again, make the trade, manage the risk, and keep an eye on these moving averages and Bollinger Bands and whatever is your favorite technical analysis tool.
Now, speaking of technical analysis, this is something we've talked about on this show in the past, the notion of using technicals in crypto. There are a lot of folks out there who are hardcore chartists and technical analysis people who claim that it works a lot better in crypto. And there's a lot of different viewpoints you could take on that. Some, maybe less crypto fun people or less, crypto enthusiast people might say, well, yeah, because there are no fundamentals. So there's nothing else to gum up the works. All you have is chart action, which is why it tends to drive it more predictably. But is that your takeaway as well? Do you find the technicals work better in a lot of crypto assets than they do in, let's say, your Apples and your Facebooks and your SPYs of the world?
What else is there? I mean, I have a conference call with about 40 other investment advisors once a week, and I would say 90% of them are fundamental driven investment advisors. They're looking at PE ratios and Sharpe ratios and CAGR and revenues and everything under the sun. And I'm not a fundamental guy. I mean, I'm a technician. And so with cryptocurrency, you can't talk about the PE ratio of Ethereum or the revenue stream or tax issues of Bitcoin. The only thing you really have is the network effect. You have following other degen crypto guys on Twitter and looking at charts. I don't know what else we have. But Mark, I think you would confirm this. When we were on the trading floor together, you could pairs trade soybeans with real estate, oranges with Coca-Cola. Like, you could put together anything. And the only way you could do it is with technical analysis using a ratio, one divided by another. And so I'm a big ratio guy. And we can talk about that also for a minute if you want. But Ethereum versus Solana, Bitcoin versus Ethereum, whatever you want. So what else do we have to hang our hat on, Mark?
I've always said at the end of the day, technical analysis, it only really matters if people follow it, right? You could have whatever ratio you want to have. You could have bananas to typhoons. And if people follow it, that technical indicator will have some validity. And I think it's
better.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Be better than a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. So, if everyone's doing the same thing, it might have a little bit more merit, which is kind of wild at the end of the day out there. Speaking of wild, listeners, let's go out to some other wild names in the altcoin universe. Some of you may be slinging or perhaps avoiding. Good old Bitminer, aka BMNR, aka BMNR, aka the name that we lured Bill to the dark side of. 41.25, down 2.25 points this week. The ADV still looking decently firm, even if it's given up a little bit right now. Still north of 250,000 contracts a day, 264,000 contracts a day. That's down 23,000 from this time last week, but still fairly active, putting up nearly 200,000 so far today. So a decently active day, all things considered. There's a lot of options names out there, listeners, that would kill to put up 200,000 contracts. The 30-day vol, if you're wondering, still pretty juicy, 111%, up 4 points from this time last week. And the hot option out there in good old BMNR this week, or I should say today, really, it's the no 50s, the monthly 50s, going up 12,000 times. Average price for these looks like about 90 cents. Looks like that could be potentially closing. There is some OI on that strike. Someone could be closing and maybe rolling down 2 by 1 because 6,300 of the 45s also trading today. Those are expiring this week, the average price for those. $1.03 could be unrelated paper, but interesting stuff out here, listening. It looks like those 50 calls going up on the bid. So it does look like somebody getting the heck out of Dodge for 90 cents on the 50s expiring next week. Mr. Bill, I know you've been active in a little bit of BMNR. What's been lighting up your tape, sir?
Well, again, this thing moves pretty big. I mean, it's a mover. And again, I use Bollinger Bands to identify a 2 standard deviation move above its moving average and a 2 standard deviation point below that. And what I do is I look at the bottom end of that range, the bottom edge of the Bollinger Band, and I say, I'm going to sell my cash secured puts down there. So BMNR is trading around, my screen shows it 41.7. Probably this one's probably delayed. You can sell the November 14th 40 put, collect $1.34 in time premium, and make 3.4% in 4 days. Or I can take 3.4% in a U.S. Treasury for a year. What are you going to do? Again, we have to reallocate and allocate resources the best we can. Of course, U.S. Treasuries are not Bitmine immersion technologies. We know that. But hey, we're just trying to put a little bit of extra bank in our rollover IRAs, and that's all we can do.
Just to read between the lines there, listeners, Bill just said BMNR risk equivalent of a 1-year treasury. That's what he's saying. No difference whatsoever.
Oh, gosh.
Treasury is going to be off 21% in a month or somewhere along those lines. Yeah, this is wild stuff out here, listeners. Hopefully you've been keeping your head above water out here as we head on out to Circle. Now, Circle, I don't know if you're as big of a fan of Circle. I know Greg is. Greg's been on here a lot lately. Of course, Greg from Amber Data, listeners, whose data we crunch here on the show all the time. He's been saying this is the Netflix of the stable coin future. If that's the case, I think good old Circle's maybe due for a little bit of its Widowmaker phase that Netflix went through, where it was just wiping people out every earnings cycle, it seemed like. Because Circle has been on a bit of a downside run. Looks like it topped out just a few weeks ago at right around 143, 144 heading into their earnings. And then, of course, the big pullback on the crypto front. Since then, it has given up pretty much about 40 handles of that. A little bit shy of 104 out there right now. In fact, it looks like it was at about 103 as of a few minutes ago down. So that puts it down 16.5 points from where it was this time last week. I know Greg's been pretty actively selling puts out there, so I have to imagine he's got some Circle stock, which I don't think that bothers him too much. Today, putting up about 100,000 contracts. The ADV is 119,000, down about 10,000 contracts a day from where it was this time last week. And as we're selling off, the vol ticking up, so looking like a traditional equity where the puts are bid, obviously. A 30-day vol, 104. That's up 4% from where it was this time last week. If you're wondering what is the hot option out there today, what is leading the dance, it looks like it's the Nove par puts going up about 5,500 times. It's hard to tell if that is actually a put spread. It looks like about 5,200 as well of the November 85 puts also going up. Yeah, it is a put spread going up for $5.50, listeners. So there is OI on both of those strikes, could be closing, but $5.50 for a $15 wide put spread expiring at the end of next week, listeners. Does that sound like a good due to you? Those puts are close to in the money, so interesting stuff. Mr. Bill, what have you been up to in Circle out here? Have you been trading it pretty actively? And then what are your thoughts on this? Looks like no par 85 put spread for a little over $5. Does that float your boat?
Well, I'm not a big spreader, Mark. I just sell the cash secured put and again manage the risk. And
You're just pay me the juice. That's all I want. Pay me the juice.
Pay me the juice. Just pay me the juice and babysit the position, right? We're just babysitting when we're short gamma. So here we are, November 12th, before the open are the earnings in Circle. It's trading $105 a share. I'm looking at my point and figure chart going back to early 2025. And it looks like the low coming off, maybe it was the IPO, it's around $75 to $80 a share. So here we have a stock. It's trading, it's trading 105. The low is maybe 99 and change. It's within 25% of its all-time low after the IPO. I can sell the at the money November 105 call that expires on the 14th, which is 2 days after earnings, collect about, what do we have here? $7.25 of premium. That's a 7.4% return if the stock stays unchanged. So I'm within 25% of its all-time low, I should say, looking at my chart. I can make a 7% return before right after earnings. I think, and this is not financial advice, this is just thoughts from a financial advisor, and that is, I think you got to kind of take a shot here. If you're going to pull one trigger in all the stocks and names that we talked about today, I think Circle might be the one. Because again, if you go to November 21st, right before Thanksgiving, you'll be celebrating a juicy turkey meal, knowing that you earn 9.5% on your trade. Share that with the family around cranberry sauce, sweet potato, and marshmallow. That would make for an excellent conversation around Thanksgiving. How I earned 9.5% in 1 week, 2 weeks.
That's the most financial advisor Thanksgiving talk ever. I earned 9.5%. Let me tell you how I did. And then we pass the cranberry sauce while I'm at it. I think I misspoke. I think I said Circle earnings already happened, but that would explain why that put spread is so juicy. The earnings are coming up this week on the 12th, so they're coming up in a couple of days, which is why that $15 put spread going out in a week and a half is still trading for $5, listeners. There's still obviously some juice on those par puts. Our chat's saying they're not loving the puts by themselves, but if they bought them, they could see selling the 85s against them and try to harvest something against them. I mean, doing it that way, not the craziest thing. Let's see, what are those 85 puts by themselves are going for? $1.56. You're taking $1.50 off the price of those par puts. Those par puts are already going for about $6.50, somewhere in that ballpark out here. Yeah, about $6.50. So I guess it makes some sense. Take some of that premium risk off the table if you are intrigued by it. But it sounds like, Bill, you along with Mr. Greg, you're drinking the Circle Kool-Aid. You're liking it around here.
Well, if I wasn't getting these rich premiums, I'd be looking at something else. I'm agnostic to Circle as a company. I just look for premium, and that's all I'm trying to do. I take a 60-40 or a 70-30 portfolio. That's S&P 500, NASDAQ, QQQ, some U.S. Treasuries, OBIL, TBIL, and that gives me this pretty quiet portfolio that would put you to sleep. But one thing I want to do is add a little bit, add my alpha. Like, what's the point of having an investment advisor that just charges you 1% annually and they don't do anything? So this is my value. It's my options experience. And we win some and we lose some. We win more than we lose. And it's just about managing the position, Mark.
Bill's here for the juice at the end of the day.
I'm here for the juice. I'm here for the income.
Can't say I disagree. And you're getting a little bit of juice in one of our other favorites out here. Maybe favorite's a strong term, but it certainly is fun to talk about on the show. This is good old ETHZilla. The name alone just makes me laugh every time, Mr. Bill. ETHZilla, of course, they had that reverse split. Stock got wild out there for a little bit. Coming in today's show, $18, up about 1/4 of a point out there. So maybe things have settled down a little bit out here in good old ETHZilla out here. Remember, you have to look for the right ticker out here as well, post-split, listeners. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting. See, over the last week, it got as low as about $15. So no, I take it back. It did. And then the high was about $18.80. So it's had nearly a $4 range, $3.80 range over the last week. So it did some moving and grooving, even if net it is kind of hanging out close to where it was on the show this time last week. Options wise, it's kind of quieted down a little bit, putting up about 2,500 contracts today. The ADV is 14,000. Does not seem like it's going to get there. That's down 6,000. And whenever you have these reverse splits, listeners, sometimes it gums up the works from an options perspective, because now you have all these vestigial strikes and tickers that confuse a lot of people. So that could also be gumming up the works. Vol-wise, though, things are still juicy. 122% up 5 points from this time last week. Mr. Bill, have you jumped in with both feet on all things ETHzilla? I mean, if you thought it was sexy at 2.5, you got to love it at 18, right?
I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole.
But it says ETHzilla in the name. How can you resist?
If you look at the pre-split price, this thing all-time high was in 2022 at $4,940.
Ooh.
And they keep reverse splitting it.
Living up to the name of ETHzilla there.
It is. No, you know what? This is a hard left. Not going to do it. Next, swipe left.
Even the puts are not juicy enough for you, not luring you to the dark side.
There's not enough juice here for me to.
I was just gonna. That should tell you something, listeners. If Bill stays away, the juice is not to his taste in ETHzilla. I think it was fun for some of our listeners when it was $2.50. You could do some silly things with it. You know, you could write calls against the stock, or sell a put. You know, your runway to get run over is kind of nominal. When it starts getting these splits and it starts getting wild again, I could see why some folks are saying, get the heck out of Dodge. As we keep on rolling out to Solana. Solana net show-to-show listeners did a whole heck of a lot of nothing. It was 167.69 last week, 166.86 coming into the start of our show this week. Let's see, it puts almost unched on the week, quite simply, down about 83 cents on the week. Not exactly a wild time out there. Since we started the show, it's up to about a 168, so it's actually up slightly on the week, but still not the wildest of weeks. Of course, speaking of wild weeks, must have been party time in the Mr. Bill household, because XRP was 235 last week, 255, a whole 20 cents in XRP land. I mean, what more can you ask for from everyone's favorite crypto asset? And then good old Doge, 16.9 cents last week, 17.9 cents, so gaining a whole penny this week. And then we have Litecoin, 88, pretty much 88 exactly last week, 107 this week. So Litecoin kind of roaring back to life to this week a little bit, up a little over 19, about 19.4 handles on the week. Cardano, 55.8 cents last week, 55.8 cents this week. So a lot of treading water this week. Polkadot, 260 last week, 317 this week. So Polkadot gaining back some of his lost luster, up about 57 cents. And everyone's favorite, I know our chat's favorite, Shiba Inu, 1 million zeros, 928 last week. This week, 1 million zeros, 99. So gaining slightly on the week. That's not even a lug nut on the hubcaps of the Lambos out there. It's the tire pressure gauge on the tires of the Shiba Lambos. But that said, Mr. Bill, how much partying did you do with XRP, and what else is catching your eye in the altcoin universe this week?
Well, when my wife asks me what I think of XRP, I give her the same kind of look as when she says, "Does this dress make me look fat?" I don't. I understand what the value proposition behind XRP. I know what they're trying to accomplish, but my Twitter feed, my Instagram feed, my Facebook feed, it is just nonstop XRP, and for that turns me off. It's just too much. So back to the altcoin universe. I'm sorry, Mark, I went off on a tangent, right? I haven't been focusing that much on the altcoins, but I'm looking at products that are traded in our world, the old world, the matrix, that are crypto related. And I have a couple of things I want to talk about if you give me a few minutes.
No, go for it.
Okay. So the first thing I like is our friends at Bitwise. When I say our friends, it means just that I did an interview with Matthew Hogan, and he's a wonderful guy. I really dig the people at Bitwise, and I'm not getting paid for that. I'm saying that. But they have an ETF. It's called the Bitwise Solana Staking ETF. The symbol is B as in boy, S as in Sam, O as in Oscar, L as in Lima, BSOL. So they own Solana, which we think might be the Ethereum killer, and you get a 7.2% staking reward. So again, for people that have a rollover IRA or traditional IRA, maybe this could be one way of kicking out the U.S. Treasuries at paying 4%, and look at the net staking rewards of Solana, which could be, I'm not for sure, but could be the next Ethereum. And we're Solana trading at about 1 150. What was the last price of Ethereum, Mark? You probably have the screen right there in front of you.
Solana, you mean? Solana was about 168.
About 168. So here, the ETF that you can buy in an IRA or your 401k, you can hold the ETF. They own 100%. All they do is own Solana, and then they stake it for its mining rewards, for its interest rewards. So here's a way of adding income to a 401k, and you get the upside potential of the underlying. So I think that's kind of interesting. And I would call that, traditional fi, not DeFi, but TradFi, a combination of the two. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Just bring up,
I don't want to derail you. I think that's a great approach, because that's one of the things people have been clinging to for a long time. If I want the ETFs, I want the staking rewards too, right? Otherwise, I'm just going to go to the spot, because you're missing out on a big component of it, the income stream. And now if you have an ETF that could offer that, this one just launched a little over a week ago, listeners, October 27th. So BSOL, one of the ones that's claiming to do what we've been asking for a while. We want, ETH and Solana and all these other, altcoin universe names. We want ETFs that also offer the staking rewards. BSOL claims to do that. So an interesting one. We've had Matt on the network in the past as well. So interesting stuff out here. I need to dig into this one a little bit more, but it is certainly one route to go. And you could put this, again, in a retirement account. You could put this in your traditional brokerage account. But that certainly makes it more attractive for a lot of people, Bill.
Agreed. And again, I think you and I would say that while we can't pick the highs and lows in the short term, this cryptocurrency, digital space, blockchain, it's here to stay. We have a pro-crypto administration. The SEC has Project Crypto. We're moving to stable coins. Robots are going to be sending money to each other, and they have to do it in milliseconds, faster than we're trading options these days. So if you believe in the future, and I'm, maybe a 1% position, 2%, right? So it's not going to derail your retirement if it goes to zero. It's just a way of adding a little bit of yield to a portfolio while you're swinging for the fences and the traditional ETF. So let's treat crypto like traditional money management, where you have growth, you have income, you have fixed income, and emerging markets. And this is what puts a digital portfolio together. The next thing I want to talk about is a new product I think came out today. The symbol is SATA. Now, Michael Saylor of Strategy has a few products that are out there that really are interesting. Now, again, this one I'm still looking into. But basically, SATA is a variable rate perpetual preferred stock, and it will be paying a 12% dividend. It just IPO'd, I think, today. Pays a 12% dividend. The dividend is paid monthly, but that dividend is based on an intrinsic value of $100. It's trading about 90, but they pay you a yield like a zero coupon bond if it was trading 100. You pair that together with MicroStrategy's 8% preferred shares. That symbol is STRK. That's yielding 9.17%. So here's a way of taking, again, you have to buy into the red pill or the orange pill of Michael Saylor. And that is, Saylor is buying Bitcoin. They have more Bitcoin. They're the second largest holder of Bitcoin next to BlackRock. It's on their balance sheets. He's creating stock, creating preferred shares, creating perpetual shares, all with a yield of about 9%. And the underlying security that ties them all together, Bitcoin, the most scarce digital asset known to man. So do your research, do your study. I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, isn't it fascinating how much the altcoin universe has evolved? This used to be solely about spot and a variety of, all sorts of, esoteric crypto assets, and they still are out there now, but so many of these are bleeding over into the traditional securities world now that this whole segment could be about, ETFs and related names that are tracking or levered or something else, offer some sort of direct or indirect crypto exposure out here, Mr. Bill. So yeah, you could do a lot of this these days in your securities account, which is, I think, fascinating. Maybe for some of the hardcore crypto heads, they find that off-putting, but I think for a lot of people out there, it provides access to many more people. By the way, I should point out, I see our chat mentioning this as well. BSOL, that new Bitcoin, that new Solana staking doesn't have options yet. So if you're looking to trade options on it, not quite there yet, but hopefully we'll see those launch in the near future. All right, listeners, that is going to do it for us on the old crypto rundown this week. Mr. Bill, I can see you champing at the bit. I'm sure you're just waiting for those options to list on BSOL so you could just blast away on some puts to get into some underlying. In the meantime, while you're waiting, what are you keeping an eye on, and where should folks go if they want to reach out to you and talk about any of this stuff?
If they want to reach out to me, they can contact me at 847-686-4800. That's area code 847-686-4800. Leave a message on our company voicemail, or they can go to cenaclecapital.com. That's CENACLE, cenaclecapital.com. And yeah, we're great. We'd love to have identify yourself as a options insider, as a crypto rundown fan, as a Shiba Inu treasury corporate guy, and let's have a conversation.
And if folks want to see you do the sexy TikTok dances, where should they go? What's that handle, sir?
Oh, God, Mark, I don't even know. I did my first video just for fun.
We're all waiting for the dance moves to come on there, so make sure you find Bill on TikTok. Give him a thumbs up. Say, hey, we want some more.
Please. Yeah, that would be great.
We want some more dances, perhaps in some more revealing outfits next time, Mr. Bill. I'm just suggesting. All right.
Trying to appeal to the young generation, Mark.
There we go. Check them out over there. Cenacle Capital, CENACLE is the place to go. Of course, you can find them on the old Twitters and everywhere else out there. And listeners, you know where to go to check out our friends over there who help bring you the show every week. Amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Listeners, again, that GUI available for free. There's so many new products coming into this space all the time. You can find data on a lot of them. You can't beat the price over there. Amberdata.io, the place to go to learn more. That's going to do it for us on the Crypto Rundown. Back again in a little bit after the closing bell to break down the day that was and indeed still is out there in the world of options. Bit of a rally out there in the broad markets out there post-shutdown, apparently. So we rallied during the shutdown, and now we're rallying coming out of the shutdown. So there we go. It's just endless rally out there with a little bit of a break last week for a little bit of a rally. We'll break it all down from an options perspective in a little bit. Back again tomorrow with the European market brief, as well as all the other fun Tuesday content. Back again throughout the rest of the week. Again, another reason why you should be subscribed to the full network until we're back again next Monday. Another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.